So we've been thinking about Jesus' return and the way that the Spirit is encouraging us in the time that we await and prepare for the return of Christ. And it seems to me that there's two things that are really important at this. One is the gospel needs to go to all the world, and then the end will come. And we've not done a particularly good job of that. The first 300 years we were particularly good at gossiping the gospel, particularly after Paul was converted. Gossiping the gospel, taking the good news around the empire, all the way to Spain, down towards China, to the UK, and bringing the good news of Jesus. And then everything changed in 314 when Constantine Christianized the Roman Empire, and suddenly the whole of the Roman Empire became Christian. And so after that was 314, there's the theology that justified it by the end of the century with Augustine, and so in the 400s and 500s that became the norm, that Christianity took over all the nations within the Roman Empire. And unfortunately, it didn't go beyond that. And so we had 1,000 years where we never took the good news anywhere else. And even though we rediscovered Scripture in the Protestant Reformation, we didn't rediscover mission. We rediscovered a whole load of things, but mission was not one of them. And so we ignored the rest of the world, until William Carey and a few others in 1700 and something began to take the good news from Europe to the nations. Actually, some Catholic missionaries had done that before into South America. But basically, the Protestant missionary movement didn't start until I think it was 60, I'm not sure. And then over the next little while, we began to make inroads into parts of Asia, parts of Africa, beginning to take the good news to the nations. And that was given a huge impetus by the Azusa Street revival, the Pentecostal movement that started in 1904. And so I think we can say for the first 300 years and for the last 120 years, we've taken this commission seriously. And this good news has gone around the world. Now, I think we're at a critical time because while the gospel is advancing in India, in China, in Asia, in sub-Saharan Africa, in South America, in many nations of the world, in Europe and America and Australasia, we're losing ground to the under 40s. And so we really need to concentrate our efforts on winning that generation for Jesus in Europe, America and Australasia. But we also need to take the good news to the 1040 window, to those nations in North Africa, across India and into China and the bits in between, where there's just the predominantly Islamic, Hindu, Buddhist and atheistic nations. And we need to carry the good news there. So I had 3 challenges for you. One is to tell someone who is like you about Jesus. Second is to tell someone who isn't like you about Jesus. And the third was to go somewhere else and tell someone about Jesus. And I hope I made that simple for you, and I'd love you to talk about that. Who can you talk to about Jesus? How can that work? What can we do to support each other in our group and in our church to tell people the good news about Jesus so that we do see the good news go into all the world, then the end will come. And the second thing was beautifying the bride, which is all about focus. It's all about worship. It's all about purity. It's all about making good choices to live as good disciples of Jesus. And I'm sure you're doing that. And maybe I'll stick some questions in on the notes for you to think about that. Have a great time as you discuss this stuff, and let's bring Jesus back as we hasten the day of his coming. There you go. That's a debatable theological point for you. See you in a bit. Bye-bye.